All right, everyone. It's now being reported Venezuela has failed to make payments after the grace period ending with regards to some billions of dollars of loans it got from China. Now, why is this significant? This represents a seismic shift in their capability of functioning as an economy at all. China is one of the few nations left that has an economy large enough to throw away money, basically, at Venezuela. But China's smart fiscally. Trump's pointed this out. He's done business over there for decades. Like, yeah, they're certainly not dumb. They're going to cutthroat after you. They'll take every penny you've got, and that's not a bad thing. That's to their credit. It's just that you have to operate in the same capacity or you'll get fucked. Essentially, that's why Obama failed in East Asian politics. He goes in there, I guess, figuring it's going to be like doing business with Germany or France or something. Just doesn't work that way. A cutthroat economy, hyper-capitalistic insofar as there is limited privatization there, hyper-centralized insofar as the remnant sort of bureaucrat class of the actual communists in China. So you've got a mixed model economy. China's got a huge economy. It's the second largest in the world. It is close to the U.S., although I personally choose to believe the U.S. in time will far outstrip China. I don't see China I see it as a paper tiger in that sense because the U.S. has far lower density and yet has a considerably larger economy. We've also got a considerably larger and more literate military, with the exception of, basic infantry, of course. Navy's bigger and better. Air Force is bigger and better. They can claim that their missiles are bigger and better. I beg to differ. I don't see any evidence of that. So it is lopsided, but China's a major economy. They can do what they want with a few $1 billion. They don't have to worry about it. They threw $7 billion at Venezuela. They're like, oh yeah, we'll give you a 2-year grace period. Let you take this money, invest, expand, do whatever you need to do, stay afloat, which is basically all they did. They used it to make debt payments to others. The problem being now they've got to pay back the Chinese loan. Are the Chinese going to just write it off, say, oh yeah, that $7 billion doesn't matter to us. That's okay. We're going to keep you afloat for no reason. In a world where your oil is intrinsically worthless, OPEC has run roughshod over people. The U.S., if the oil price ever goes up so you can make money, the U.S. will just start drilling more because the U.S. has so much more oil now. Due to new methods in fracking, it has gas, it has oil, it has more coal than it ever imagined. The U.S. is the new energy giant of the world, but we're going to keep propping you up forever. For no reason. What's the purpose? You have no strategic value other than you have oil, but oil's worth less now, so why do we care? The Chinese, I doubt, will write it off. Weeks go by, no word from Caracas, I guess, on what exactly they're going to do. They've defaulted on their loan. They're in a default. People keep using these terms like, oh, Venezuela's in a technical default. They're in a partial default. They're close to default. No, they are a defaulted nation. They can't pay for anything. They can't even pay to import basic drugs to keep small children from getting communicable diseases. At some point, an epidemic is going to take care of what nobody in the region apparently has the balls to take care of, which is get Maduro out of power by causing enough human misery to cause a civil war. At that point, it's going to be a problem. By the way, Nicaragua's burning to the ground at the moment, although Panama just normalized its relations with Venezuela again. For a while, they'd shut them out. They said, we're not doing business with you. You pissed us off too much. I guess they negotiated, and now they're on an even keel again. But now Nicaragua's falling apart. You have constant problems in South and Central America. They have for, decades because of socialism usually, but okay. It's not real socialism because it no longer works. It was real socialism. Salon 4 years ago, I think it was. No, or 5. They had a write-up on how Venezuela was great. It was the model for socialism. It was the standard of socialism. The silver standard. It was perfect. It was a worker's utopia. Look at how fast the economy is growing. Look how wealth inequality is dropping like a rock. Infant mortality dropped like a rock. The average lifespan increased by 5-10 years. So many people lifted out of poverty, and now they have electricity, and there's roads, and all this wonderful stuff. Look at what socialism can accomplish. No, that's called look at what high oil prices, because we're at odds with the Middle East, can accomplish. Honestly, Bush helped Venezuela a lot. War in Iraq, spiking oil prices. You remember what they were at their peak? As opposed to during the Clinton era, you saw gas prices that were 89 cents a gallon. And then all of a sudden, the Iraq war begins. Afghanistan, oh yeah, it was a different story. Oh yeah, sorry we disrupted 10% of the world's oil flow. Yeah, Venezuela was sitting pretty for a while. Why do you think Chavez and Maduro were able to keep up all of that bullshit? And it was debt related too. Oh yeah, we can borrow money, we'll just pay it back with oil. Because we'll borrow money, put in more pumps, pump more oil, then we'll sell the oil, pay that off. We can expand our economy infinitely. Therein lies the problem. You can't actually do that. It's also a paradox within capitalism. Eventually, world growth does basically cease. And then you have to mine asteroids or establish a lunar base that can somehow be, in a capitalistic sense, solvent. Which is possible, as long as what you need is minerals or stuff grown on a greenhouse on the sunny side of Mars, essentially. Oh, this is pure Martian water. I can see in the future, like $100 a gallon, pure Martian water. It has a little bit of radium in it, so it's good for you. It's like healthy and stuff. And it'll be like a new Victorian era. It really will. It's going to be like space steampunk. You watch in 100 years or something. You see if I'm not correct. If it ever becomes solvent, they develop the technology to do that efficiently. You're gonna have people rubbing themselves with moon rocks. They're gonna take like little crystals from off the moon, little pieces of ice from the soil. They'll melt it and they'll say, put this in your bath. It'll cure every skin complaint. Psoriasis goes away with moon wash. They're gonna do this sort of thing. No, but Venezuela, meanwhile, it's like you are living on Mars if you think that there's a functioning economy there. People are butchering and eating their pets. When they run out of pets, they butcher their zoo animals. Children are dying. Pregnant women, they're dying in childbirth. Every gain that Venezuela made on the backs of higher oil prices has gone away. Every single gain. There is more poverty and stress, and there are more problems there now than there ever were before the socialist revolution, when people were essentially tenant farmers. There are more problems now. There may come a point at which they overthrow the government and install some sort of weird right-wing nationalistic movement out of nostalgia for how things were before socialism ever pervaded Latin America. It would be, they might get their own Augusto Pinochet or something like that. I know, by the way, people also pronounce it Pinochet. It's funny because there's actually no agreement on how exactly his name is supposed to be pronounced. Or at least that's what I've read. Maybe he has his own opinions, or did before he keeled over. By the way, he was popular. You know, a lot of people turned out for his funeral, despite the fact that people thought he was a madman, a murderer. Now, he wasn't a murderer. He prevented a lot of murders because he got rid of communists. But Venezuela should probably try that at some point, starting with Maduro. The problem with getting rid of Maduro, essentially, at this point, is some general. He stacked the military with generals loyal to him. They have similar ideologies to him. If you get rid of Maduro, you may end up with a literal military leadership that is just as socialistic and far out of touch with reality as he is. That might be a problem. It turns out they're taking military dudes and putting them in the oil industry, and they're undercutting their oil industry now too. The only industry they have left. At what point is there just going to be peasant farming? Are we going to have another Pol Pot Cambodia style situation with mass purges and a ruralite movement simply because you no longer even have enough of an economy, enough productivity in any sense to actually maintain urbanization? People are going to say, well, we're just going to live in electricity-free hovels anyway. We might as well at least farm. You know, where are you going to get the seeds from? Who knows? You'd probably have to take out an extra Chinese loan just to buy the seeds. Now, Maduro should turn it into an agrarian society and probably work better than relying on oil as a monoculture at this point. But they can't even pay that back the Chinese. The Chinese are smart enough, so eventually they're going to say, yeah, fuck you. You've defaulted. You're going to have to pay us off. Maybe we'll give you interest-free sort of arrangements. You got 10 years to pay us back, but at least we won't give you a bunch of interest on top of that. Who's going to bail them out? It'd be really funny if Trump said, okay, Venezuela's in our hemisphere. They made bad decisions. We're going to throw them $7 billion to clear up this loan. We'll loan you money, but you've got to make progress in your economic arrangements. I wouldn't put it past Trump to do such a thing. You know, word on the street, as Maduro would say, fuck you, but, you know, oh, the great Satan is trying to give us evil money. You know, his evil satanic genie cash, by which he controls nations. You know, even if it has nothing to do with the International Monetary Fund. By the way, taking a bunch of loans, yeah, from the international body, probably not the greatest fiscal strategy unless you know that there's going to be a big return. You do end up enslaved at that point, but a little bit different. Now, since it is in our hemisphere, it behooves us to do something. We can't get involved in a military sense. Yeah, okay, you know, bail them out and just say, hey, you need to diversify your economy. You know, it's necessary at this point because it's obvious oil alone only works for Saudi Arabia because they've already invested in other things. They can also launder money and, buy tanks and go kill people. So they've got, other advantages. Venezuela, it'd be really funny if they had a military industrial style economy. Oh yeah, we're a regional power now. You pay us money and we'll go bomb the Colombians. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. That's about all. Peace out.